Hello everybody, my name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today we're going to talk some Big Eva because Big Eva is beating the drums of war. They're trying to represent a Christian witness to the world, and unfortunately they are trying to promote evil, blood, and death. And we're going to call this out. We're going to call people out like Russell Moore, a usual suspect, and Daniel Darling, like a mini me of Russell Moore. And then we're also going to talk about Richard Land also as well. He is Russell Moore's predecessor. So a lot of usual suspects in today's video, but we're going to be talking about how they want the United States to continue to back Ukraine even after Ukraine is getting destroyed on the battlefield. And it's not going to end well. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to let you know, Evangelical Dark Web is a Christian news gathering and commentary ministry. You can support our work over at evangelicaldarkweb.org/join. That's our Patreon-like system. But the least you can do is like this video, subscribe to the channel, to the podcast if you are new. So, a couple things going on that we're going to talk about. And the overarching thing that's going on is that Big Eva really wants to back Ukraine. They still want the United States to fund Ukraine even as the losses on the battlefield pile up. In fact, you can't really name a victory, a meaningful victory that they've had in the war for quite some time. And this would include the latest disastrous defeat at the city of Avdiivka, which was a pretty strategic defeat for them. This was a pretty major defeat because at the end of the day, this war has not been going on for 2 years. It's been going on for nearly a decade of war. This was an area of Ukraine that has been fortified for over 9 years. 9 years of war, this area has been fortified. Now it's been lost. And there's not going to be any plan to get that back. Ukraine doesn't have the manpower. It doesn't matter how many weapons that we send them. They do not have the manpower to continue fighting this war. Advanced weapon systems need advanced training. Tanks need training. Who's going to do the training? Who's going to be in the training? How much fodder is there left to fight? Ukraine has already talked about relaxing its language requirements to where you don't have to speak English or Ukrainian in order to fight in their foreign legion, but which is a pretty disastrous move, by the way. Not a good idea. But the idea is they want to import African soldiers to fight their war. I don't think that's going to work out very well, but that's where they're at. And for people claiming to represent a Christian worldview that really don't, to say that we must support this, we must continue the fight because democracy is frankly anti-Christological. It's a complete disregard for human life in favor of geopolitical post-war consensus. That's what that's about. They want to fight for the post-war consensus, and they don't care about the consequences of doing so. So Russell Moore is definitely someone who fits this bill. Yeah, obviously, he's been beating the drums of war this whole time, and what's going on is, you know, he's going after Tucker Carlson and all that, but he's also been very supportive of Ukrainian efforts. He has a Ukraine flag in bio and an Israeli flag, so he has 2 gay flags in his bio. And he's also perpetuating the lie that Tucker Carlson said that he was a breastfeeding Christian. This lie was utilized by Tim Alberta, who's an author that's making the rounds with his anti-Christian book. He writes for The Atlantic, another anti-Christian magazine and rag. So he's lying about that. Megan Basham does a good job pointing out that Tucker Carlson said that Russell Moore described Russell Moore as a breastfeeding Christian, not a breastfeeding one. Here is the clip of that.
Where's so-called Christian leaders? Where's Russell Moore and all the other breastfeeding Christians as that happens, as the U.S. government cracks down on Christianity, on prayer? Silent. Paul Vaughn and his co-conspirators now face more than a decade in prison.
So again, that's Tucker Carlson talking about Ukraine. That's while he's still on Fox News. He was going after Big Eva on Fox News, and you did love to see that at the time. And obviously, Russell Moore's peddling a lie because he's a liar. That's what he does. So he's perpetuating a lie. Megan Basham called him out on that. But it all has to do with the Ukraine narrative that Russell Moore has been supporting this entire time. But I also want to point out Christian Post ran a column about why Speaker Johnson should allow a vote on Ukraine and Israel aid. And Speaker Johnson's actually holding the line, and I almost want to say for once, but he's going to sell us out a lot on spending and stuff like that, but he is managing to hold the line on the Ukraine issue, which I didn't think he would do, because he wants to sell out just for Israel. He doesn't want to sell out for Ukraine at this moment, because that's... You got to understand, Mike Johnson's an Israeli first kind of guy. He's not, if Ukraine gets more dollars than Israel, he has a problem with that, because that's who Mike Johnson is. So Mike Johnson's all about Israel first, and he has an issue with giving more funding to Ukraine than Israel. Is at the end of the day what I think the issue is, and I think there's enough people in the Republican Party that are telling him we're going to vacate the chair if you allow a vote on this Senate deal, or if you allow a vote on their immigration deal that was already squashed. But we read an article about that at Evangelical Dark Web. We didn't do a video on that, but yeah, the immigration deal that was squashed. So this article has some pretty interesting alternative history. I think the part about, the neo-isolationism that led to World War, which I'm not sure whether it's talking about World War I or World War II, because it references a century ago. Which it wasn't neo-isolationism that led to World War II, by the way. Like, America wasn't stopping a World War II from happening, by the way. In fact, we tried to intervene on behalf of China, which got us involved in World War II. So, that's just a completely false history. And it also perpetuates the idea that China is going to invade Taiwan, which isn't going to happen, for the simple reason that Taiwan's a democracy and China can just buy them out. They don't have to invade Taiwan. They can just subvert Taiwan from the inside out. China has not had a significant military intervention since the Korean War. Do you honestly think they're going to change that? No, they're just going to subvert a democracy, because that is so much easier than fighting a war. There's so much less cost to just subverting the democracy of Taiwan than there is to taking over Taiwan. So China's not going to invade anytime soon. That's why they haven't done it yet. We've been saying for 2 years now that China's going to invade Taiwan, and they have not done it. China bluffing. But Ukraine is over. And this was an article jointly written by Richard Land and Dan Darling. And Daniel Darling is a complete Ukraine shill. He's a complete vaccine shill. He is one of the worst. He was the guy that took funding from the government funding from Facebook, the Zuckbucks, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, in order to set up jab sites at churches. That's who Daniel Darling is. And he never apologized for that. He never repented for that. Because that's who Daniel Darling is. And of course he's going to back Ukraine. Of course he's going to, prop up an anti-Christian regime in Ukraine in order to fight Russia. That's who he is. So this article is all about, we need to support Ukraine and support Israel and support Taiwan. Again, I don't think Taiwan's going to be invaded anytime soon. And Israel does not need our money. That's the only reason the United States pays money to Israel, is out of tribute, because let's be real, it's not about foreign aid. It's really about us paying tribute to them, because a bunch of politicians think that we're going to get favor from their God if we pay them tribute. That's what a bunch of this is, that if we bless Israel, America will be blessed by their God, and their God is not our God, by the way. I just want to be clear about that. So that's why people like Speaker Johnson want to support Israel, because he's dispensationalist. So anyway, that's basically the drums of war that Big Eva wants to beat. That's basically your news for today. My name is Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web. We talk about a bunch of different topics at evangelicaldarkweb.org. So also subscribe to our free newsletter linked in the description below. Have a blessed day. We will catch you on the next one.